Are you ready? Ready to learn something cool? We're going to be covering the usage of sound. In particular, you program your brain for really, really good sleep. We'll talk a little bit about Bioral Beats, if you heard of it. We'll talk a little bit about Soundscape, Sleep Space, which is an app, even a little bit about hypnosis and NLP. Are you ready to get started? Well, let's begin. So let me get out of your way. I'm going to disappear, and then we're going to cover quite a few things. What will we be covering? We're going to show you some brain hacking principles, some of the principles that underlies the various things that we're going to talk about. So what I'm trying to get you to learn to fish for yourself, rather than just telling you, so use this or do that, you can understand the principles, and therefore whatever else is new that comes along the track to help with that particular aspect of your sleep or your performance hacking, you already know where they fit in the grander scheme of things. So it's like a car chassis. A car have wheels, but then if you want to swap out for better wheels, you see another brand new wheel, it's still a wheel, so you know where it fits in the car. I'm giving you the chassis for sleep. In this case, I'm talking about some fundamental principles so that when you see like an equivalent new product come out, you know exactly where it fits in your overall performance improvement and sleep hacking and basically everything you do to improve yourself. I hope that makes sense. So we're going to talk about a single hacking principle about the brain. The other thing we're going to cover for you is how do you manipulate hearing for sleep, which is one aspect of the brain hacking. We're going to talk about the audio aspect of it, the hearing of your ears, and some of the methods, the actual methods of how you can do that, some of the apps, the tools, the machines that you can choose to invest on or try for yourself. And then we're, of course, going to follow up with some action plan today. So, brain hacking principle. How do you manipulate the brain? We do that by manipulating your senses. So you have, and this is approximate, it's really, really fascinating. It's like for so long we've assumed that we've only got 5 senses. And these senses are sight, so let me bring that up. Sight, touch, smell, taste, hearing. Okay, these are the basic senses that we all assume every single human being can be able to sense. But did you know that you also have this thing called a proprioception senses that tells you where you are in space, your movement, and you have sensors. I talked a little bit about proprioception sensors on the back of in your body, and that's how it senses space. And when you go to bed, if it doesn't have that feedback loop or feedback feeling of your sleep, like you sleep on a super soft bed, that can actually deprive your proprioception sensors from that feedback that it's normally receiving. So you can potentially benefit from sleeping on a hard floor, on yoga mat, and have the best sleep ever. Once you get used to it, of course. And this is what I'm talking about. There are other senses, that we just discovered or we are yet discovering. You have oxygen sensors in certain arteries, right, sensing how much oxygen is in your body. You have kinesthetic sensors for detecting when there's like muscle and tension, like tendon stretching, the movement, when that moves. So all these senses that sometimes we are not even aware of. And what's really fascinating is these senses is not just about sensing. Your brain uses the senses information, the data it receives from those sensors to provide feedback, to adjust your body function based to decide what it needs to do during the day. So we talked a little bit about sight earlier in the training, is that the sight gives you information about whether you should be energized or you should be preparing for rest. So if it's light, bright blue light, middle of the day, sunlight over the top of your head, the angle of light means to your brain to be awake, because daytime and dark is telling your brain it's time to get to bed, time to rest, time to create some melatonin, right? So that is how you got your brain uses your eyes as input or sensors to decide what to do. How about taste? If you eat, you're telling your body, well, you shouldn't, I mean, you're not eating while you're sleeping. So eating becomes a signal for energy, for working, for doing things. And fasting is when your body recover, when you trigger a, you trigger like this cleansing and mechanism. You reduce your mTOR activation in your body so that you can clean yourself up, and that's by not eating, right? So it's cycle. Can you see cycles? There's cycles everywhere. Touch, right? If you hit it, if you get hit really hard, it gives you tension, right? If it's hard hitting impact, it gives you tension. But if it's warm bath in the touch, it relaxes, right? So this is all different cycles of what you go through, and much like how you adjust the temperature of your shower or your bath, you turn on, if it's too hot, you turn it down. You feel what it feels and you adjust accordingly. Your body is using all of your senses as data input to adjust how it should regulate your body, how you can control your body, and that is what we're taking advantage of, right? Because this is when we take advantage of that, we know this, then we can manipulate the senses, control what we put into our senses so that we can get the biological response we want. For example, you want good sleep, we start to darken the room, use candlelight, use red light, not blue light over the head, maybe a little bit lower angle. We can change all that, and therefore, as in getting our body, controlling our body to get it to rest, to start the resting cycle. And that's a key principle of hacking your performance, that we need to be aware of the principle that we use to hack of that. And one interesting fact, and this is really interesting research out of a journal of photochemistry and photobiomodulation. It's a journal that talks about how they recently discovered that your skin actually is not just skin, it's actually got photon, like light sensors to be able to sense things like sunlight. And this is what's fascinating, is that you think it's just about, like, let's say getting darkness for night. It's not just about covering your eyes. Like your skin actually have sensors for light. So if you shine bright blue light behind your knees, and they've did this experiment, it literally impacted the sleep brain waves by having light in the back of their knees. They just tape it up, and which is really interesting. You think it's just the eyes. No, it's your skin. Fun fact for you. So you have sensors everywhere and that you know of, and sensors that everywhere you don't know of. And we're still discovering all this wonderful, wonderfully designed body that we have. So, so manipulate your senses means you control your biology, and that's biohacking. Okay, enough about biohacking. What are we doing? We're talking about manipulating what you hear, and so that you can get the state you want, so you can get the sleep you want, to manipulate your hearing for energy and for rest. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you manipulate hearing? Well, first you need to understand that your brain have operating frequencies. So they call it electroencephalogram, EEG. I have trouble pronouncing that. I think you might have to. Maybe you're better than me. But EEG are the stuff that you put, electrodes that you put on the brain, your skull, to measure the brain waves. And what they notice is in different type of brain state, you have a dominant frequency. Now, your brain will operate with a mixture of all these frequencies at any one time. Okay, it's not like you only do beta and you don't do gamma. It's a mixture. It's just which one is more dominant. And it's shifting constantly. And you can shift between these states quite easily. The first state I want to talk about is the beta state. So the beta state is really when you're strongly focused or when you're anxious and stressed. So it's a heightened state of alertness. So you're walking around the bush and you hear a rustle in the grasses, and now comes a rabbit, and you go, you're in beta state. Okay, so that shock response, your eyes is focused, and you go, is that a snake or is that a rabbit? Right, a rabbit. Oh, cute rabbit. Right, snake. You maybe should run, but it's around 13 to 38 hertz. Around that. That's kind of hertz is basically time per second. How many times it oscillates per second. It's quite a rapid but very short cycle. So very quick, very quick, 13 to 38. Then you go into the alpha state. Alpha state is slower, but it's bigger in amplitude. So you're basically getting a bigger wave. It's when you're relaxed. You're relaxing, you're taking a stroll. It's 8 to 12 hertz. And it happens, I don't know if you ever been in a state where you're completely lost for time. You're just in the zone, they call it in sport, right? You just, everything works, you can't fail, you just get into a flow state. That's also more of an alpha wave state. So I'm describing this because when you can get your brain, let's say if you want to get into the flow state, you want to just churn a lot of workout and just because it's menial, not a lot of thinking, not analytical, but it's more about getting into flow and just highly challenging, highly engaged, but you want to be lost for time. You just want to focus, immerse on work, on the work, which is the alpha state. Well, you can think about, well, how can I trigger the alpha state? Today we're going to talk about audio, but there are other ways like breathing to trigger alpha state, right? Meditation can trigger alpha state. There's tons of things that can trigger an alpha state for you, but knowing that, it means you can control your brain. You can get it to switch into like beast mode for fighting. Okay, well that's beta. Alpha is for brainstorming or for flow. Okay, so you know where to apply this, and that's why I'm telling you understanding the brain state is really, really useful if you care about your sleep, you care about your work. Theta state, when you daydream, when you, I think you've done this before. You've driven it, and you're driving to someplace else, and you'll be thinking about something, but all of a sudden you just end up there, and you kind of which way did I took? You might. It's a bit of a daydream, autopilot. It's very, very relaxed, very meditative. So high-level meditators regularly get into a theta state very, very quickly. Even if they've been frightened, something shocked them, and they bounce up into alpha, they can get into theta almost instantaneously. And that's something that training actually helps. Okay, so they recover, that triggered state recovery, it's much faster in a highly experienced meditator. It's very slow, 4 to 7 hertz, and it's very creative. It's also the state that you have when you're actually dreaming. And lastly, not last, I want to talk about delta, which is the slowest, very, very deep and a slow wave. And this is what happens when you're in deep sleep. So 1 to 3 hertz. And remember, we talked about if you care about sleep, what type of sleep that you want to be measuring. Do you remember? REM sleep and deep sleep. Yes, you're absolutely right. So that's theta and delta, right? That's the brain wave that we know if we can trigger, we have deep sleep and we have REM sleep. So I'm just turning it around. And lastly, we talk about gamma, which is the fastest. It's at 40 and above to almost like something like 100 hertz. It's really, 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 really rapid. And this is when your brain literally in a state of just connecting random paradigms all together. It's really good for innovation, for brainstorming, for ideas that you just want to think of out-of-the-box ideas, unconventional ideas to get your goal. That is the state that you can aim for. And again, you can trigger that type of, now that you know that, you can look at how you can trigger a gamma state, right? There's tons of ways to do it. You can use CES Devices, which is a gadget you attached, which is cranial electrical stimulation. You're using a current to actually create this brain state. And be able to, on command, trigger the state that you desire, whether it's rest or work or sleep. So we are going to use sound. How are we going to do this? We're going to use a variety of sound to trigger various different type of state. Okay, so here I'm just showing you is that we have the beta. So the way I think about it is BAT, D, B-A-T-D. So beta, alpha, theta, D, delta. Beta is the alert state and everything is gradually more restful. Okay, now we already know that in a good sleep routine, you are already programming your brain for a low beta frequency, right? So your sleep routine, that's where it fits in. It starts to calm that down. You're not quite alpha there, but you're quite low beta. You're reducing the frequency by changing the nature of your work or changing the type of entertainment that you do. You can go into low beta. So that's a great start. But that's not the end, because ultimately we want to get to alpha, theta, delta. And your brain, your sleep cycle actually goes in cycles. So as you fall asleep, it goes from low beta into alpha. Your mind's kind of light sleep. Your mind's wandering around. Then it goes to theta. Then eventually, which is quite sleep, but not quite deep. Then you jump into delta. And then it comes back to alpha, theta. It goes around in cycles. And your brain do that multiple times a night, probably about 7 times a night, around a 90-minute cycle to go through that. Now you can actually experiment with biohacking to increase the rate of cycling, and see if that means you can get less sleep and still perform well. These are the hacks, right? But I'm not getting there. Today, we just want to talk about high quality sleep. And we will be using a variety of methods to trigger this particular state in your brain, so that you feel rested, you feel well recovered. And we're going to be focusing on the theta state and the delta state. Okay, that's a lot about neuroscience. Let's get on to how we can actually do this. All right, how can we program your brain? You're asking, you're screaming now. Okay, we'll get to it. We'll talk about noise generators. We'll talk about white noise. We're going to talk about pink noise, brown noise, black noise, all the noises, and how it helps you in creating the right type of brain state for sleep. We will talk about Bioral Beats. And I do acknowledge I actually spelled it right. I thought I spelled it wrong looking at the notes. There you go. No need to correct. Sleep Space, which is a particular app that you can download, that's developed with some of the new research that's coming out about the use of pink noise to trigger deep sleep. It's really fascinating, and we'll talk about that. So let's start off with noise generators. What is the purpose of noise generators? It's to for some people, it's really helpful for this. I'm just making this bigger. To block out the background noise, like if you got noisy neighbors, snoring, dog barking, cat meowing, I know mice, I don't know what is going on in your world, but things that's annoying you, preventing you from going to sleep. So these noises that we use in the generators are designed to kind of blend out those voices so they become imperceptible. We stop acknowledging them. It's just like, for example, I've not heard of Chinese water torture. They basically get people to be deprived of voice sound, and all they hear is the drip of water. Tick, tick, tick. And you can quickly annoy the heck out of people. So it's the smallest noise that's annoying. Now, imagine if you can have something else louder with the water. You no longer hear the water, right? You no longer hear the water drop. And that is what these noise generators are designed to do. And there's a particular variety of different noises that you can generate, which we'll talk about. But it triggers a bit of the alpha theta state in your brain to help you transition to sleep. So it doesn't really necessarily help with creating deep rejuvenative sleep, but it does trigger the onset of sleep to make it easier for you to fall asleep. So if you have trouble falling asleep, you may want to experiment with noise generators. Okay, so that is the falling asleep bit, what it helps with. Now, one warning I would make, there's some noise research, or white noise research, that's associated white noise with impaired brain development in children or in babies. Because the baby's brain and children's brain are constantly developing. Their brain need to notice the nuances in language. Some of the subtle things that we say, the things that we generally use to express ourselves are important triggers or cues for speech development, for proper speech development. Now, with white noise, because it's always there in the background, as your brain, a baby's brain or a child's brain is developing, what happens is that your brain will eventually ignore those noise. So it start to take it for granted rather than acknowledging it, and that's not good. If your children was supposed to notice some noise, all the frequencies, rather than ignoring all these things and training to tune out, it can have a consequence of affecting your brain development. So something for you to be aware of, that white noise is not necessarily a good thing for children. I'll be careful there on not using it. Maybe just using it sometime, but just not regularly. I notice that because baby can't tell you if they're distressed, some white noise do annoy babies. So something to also watch out for. Now, which noise should you be using? Well, let's get through the noises first that we have, and then you can decide which one will work for you, because everyone is going to be different. For some people, they love white noise. For other people, they find it too harsh. They prefer pink noise or even brown noise. Yeah, and other people, they prefer black noise. So let's talk about what they are. So white noise it's even in frequency. So all frequencies covered, right? It's like just covered, like if you imagine TV, underneath that analog TV, shows my age, where if you can't get a channel, it just got that static. So it's like the radio and television static, or hissing radiator, as you can see in the diagram, and also humming of an air conditioner. Now, the white noise is something that covers all frequency. So pink noise, though, it kind of reduces the high frequency, so it's kind of more on the low end. For some people, they find it more mellow, so it's a little bit more gentle. Then it sounds like a steady rainfall, like if you like the sound of rain, light wind. And there's studies that shows that you can actually improve memory and deep sleep when played at a particular sleep stage. So I'll actually talk a little bit more about that in Sleep Space, which is the app I'm going to talk about. So that's pink noise. And brown noise is just a further reduction of the higher frequencies, even more than pink noise. It's a bit rougher for some people, which is really interesting because some people find white and brown a little bit more rougher than pink, but some people prefer it. So low roaring, strong waterfall, thunder, these are the brown noise, or red, also known as red noise. Which one is going to help you get to sleep faster? Experiment, try it. You can get like an app, a noise generator, which I'm going to talk about, but I'll quickly mention what black noise is. Black noise is just no noise. To get black noise, there's ways of doing that, which means not a noise generator, but a noise eliminator. So a noise cancelling headphones is a noise eliminator. So you can potentially use that to eliminate noise if you prefer a lack of noise. Okay. So let's have a look at some cool gadgets. On the left, we have the noise generators. The benefit of those is it's always on. You just switch it on, you go to bed, you fall asleep. Another advantage is it's sufficient volume to fill the room. So if you have particularly noisy environment, this may particularly help. It's convenient, it's always there. The cons is it costs additional money. So it's around $100 depending on which one you buy, and it's a fixed feature set. So let's say if you prefer brown noise, you might need to look for one that actually generates brown noise, right? Rather than just white noise. You can look at the black one that we see here does pink noise and white noise, but you have to look at each specific device what it does. Alternative is of course using a phone and tablet, and the pro of that is it's just an app away. You're just an app away from trying a different feature set. You always have one. I think most of you have a phone already. The downside is limited in volume, and it means when you go to bed, you have to go, okay, my phone, okay, yeah, then you go to bed. Whereas the machine is just like press a button, off you go. That is the downside of a mobile phone. Now, in terms of the noise reduction, you can get noise cancelling headphones, or you can just get a nice earplug. It's cheap. The only downside I find that it takes a bit of experiment to try different type of plugs to get the right fit. Because if you're sleeping on the side, which I think you should, it may press on your ear, right? So which one is more comfortable? Find something that's actually really comfortable that you can go to bed comfortably, and ideally with no radiation. Okay, no emitting of radio frequencies, because that has an impact on sleep, which you will quickly discover. And so that is the main ways that you can use to create noise to drown out the background noise that's impacting your sleep. Okay, where would you start? My recommendation is start with your phone. First, you already got it, and second, you can try if it works and find what works for you. Then you go and invest yourself in a machine if you need it to be louder. So I think having a phone, starting at a phone, is probably a good idea. Now let's look at Bioral Beats. What the heck is that? Let me see if I can explain it this way. So the purpose of Bioral Beats is to play two different frequencies. It's to program your brain. It's called in a process called entrainment. So on the left, you have one frequency. Let's say, how would you say? Let's talk about 10 hertz. Okay, 10 cycles per second. And on the right hand side, you play a frequency that's 5 hertz, 5 cycles per second. But what happens in your brain? They'll listen to it and they will actually merge in the middle and create a single beat, and that beat is going to be a difference between the two frequencies, which is going to be 5, right? 5 hertz. And remember, 5 hertz is close to your deep sleep, your delta frequency, right? So that means your brain, once it hit the beat, it kind of can't help itself but to follow the beat. And therefore your brain goes wind down to 5 cycles per second, and you go into deep sleep or deeper sleep than otherwise without. So that's the process of entrainment, is really to play a certain frequency so that you can get your brain to match the beat. Now this is not really new, to be honest. This is quite ancient. The shamans will play the drums in a particular rhythm and they get into a bit of trance. That's the power of beats and sound to entrain and trigger a particular brain effect. Yeah, so if they want to get into a theta phase where they might be a bit over the place in the trance, they use the beats to do that. So it's ancient. The fact of these beats on the brain wave is actually not that new. Now, it was actually, but as a concept, the Bioral beat that's been formalized as a concept was actually discovered in 1839 by Heinrich Wilhelm stove, and it was discovered. Well, I mean, coming to 200 years ago, or 1839 or 1939, well, almost 200 years ago. But it really became kind of bounced into the public awareness in the late 20th century, based on the anecdotal evidence and also some of the neuroscientific research that it really can help induce relaxation, help with meditation, help creativity, any kind of desired mental state, because of this effect that I just described called entrainment, which is getting your brain to work at a particular frequency that you desire. In this case, we're doing it for sleep. Now, if you want to do it for analytical work, calculation work, you train your brain into beta state, right? So that's how you can hack the brain. So now we talked about ancient cultures being part of that, already part of that. Let's go on to how we actually make it happen for you. Now, for you to do Bioral Beats, you have to use headphones. It has to go on both sides. If you listen on a speaker, it doesn't work because it bounces off the wall, it cancels each other out. You're not going to get an effect. If you're not using stereo headphone, you're not doing Bioral Beats. Full stop. Okay? You might get Bioral Beat generators like in a store that claims to do Bioral Beats. It's not. If it's not a headphone that goes into your ear, it's not Bioral Beat. So that's really important. And I'm sharing this. This is probably one of the most powerful way to increase the quality of sleep. And in fact, it's where I started all these years ago. And from the app I was measuring by, it doubled my deep sleep. And I've tried everything else to double my deep sleep, but nothing kind of increased anywhere near Bioral Beats. So it's really powerful, and I highly encourage you to experiment. Now, in terms of a headphone for Bioral Beats, let me just make myself bigger. Okay, hopefully you can see this. And let's go into... All right, black and black doesn't work. So let me see if I can... All right, there you go, white. Can you see this? This is called sleep phones. Okay, so sleep phones is a very soft, very comfortable, like the speakers is really flat, so it doesn't feel hard against the side of your head, even if you're a slight sleeper. And you basically go over the top of your head like that. The speakers on the side, and you plug this into your phone. I kind of look ridiculous, don't I? Who cares? It gives you good sleep. You plug it in, and this is how you do the Bioral Beat into your phone, and you just download the Bioral Beat app, and off you go. Experiment away. Now, I highly recommend getting a corded version, mainly because you don't want your phone on Wi-Fi or Bluetooth and have that near you, because that's going to impact you biologically. We'll talk about that in a future session, but you will. Just trust me for now. I'll explain. But this one is going to help you to be able to do Bioral Beat quite easily. Now, you can experiment with other type of headphones, but I find these great. They're not too expensive, and it's washable as well. Double is a bit of eye mask. You can put over your eyes. If you've got lights coming into the room, you can cover up your eyes. So that's what I recommend. And here's a better picture of it. Let me just get back out of your way. Bring up the slide again. There you go. Okay, so that is the sleep phones you can buy online. And the app that I used is the Bioral Beat Therapy. The Bioral Beat, it's an open source Android app, but if you search in App Store, search in Play Store, you should be able to find a dime a dozen. There's heaps out there. You just try it and see if it improves the quality of sleep based on your measures of sleep quality. Alrighty. Lastly, I want to mention the Sleep Space app. In a 2010 study, the researchers actually experiment with using sound and found that a short auditory tones, about 50 milliseconds of pink noise, actually played at a rate that mimics the natural changes in the brain, which we're talking about in terms of the deep sleep and delta stage. During the sleep, it increased the slow wave sleep by nearly 50%. 50%. Okay, another study has actually been found to show a similar result. So there's another study that was published actually in 2013 again that shows a closed loop stimulation enhances not just deep sleep but also your memory. And that's what I was talking about previously, a little bit about the pink noise, that the pink noise played at a specific stage of your sleep can actually increase your memory, increase your deep sleep, and make you feel more rejuvenated. So Sleep Space is an app that not only does sleep monitoring, it also strategically play the pink noise at the particular stages of sleep, and which is going to help with your memory consolidation, as in turning what you learned during the day into something that you permanently integrated into your brain. And and you can get it both for Android and iOS. It integrates in terms of the iOS, integrates with a bunch of appliances like Apple Watch, Oura Ring as well. So it's really comprehensive. It is a paid subscription, so you might want to download a 7-day trial. Just note the Android version doesn't work if your phone is on the airplane mode. So that's for me a major no-no, and that's why I installed it, because I do not want my phone to be sending out radio waves while I'm trying to sleep. It has an impact. So I'm waiting for the Android version to catch up to the iOS, the Apple version. But this is something well looked at. So you can search for Sleep Space, and they have also a really comprehensive website of very interesting facts and tidbits about sleep and improving your sleep. So that is Sleep Space. All right, we've covered quite a few things. What have we covered? We covered the brain waves. We covered about some brain hacking principles. We talk about how you can use noise generators and also Bioral Beats and Sleep Space as an app to manipulate your brainwave for high quality sleep. I hope you got something out of it, but more importantly, I want you to have a think about these things. What are you looking to try? Just announce it to a community. Let us know what you're going to do with your experiment. And of course, do you know there's any improvement with your experiment? Share that with your community and let us know how it's going for you. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this fascinating module about sleep and the sound, using sound to hack your sleep. I'll see you next time. Take care.